Hello, cycle touring enthusiasts. Welcome to the 2025 holiday special episode of the Accidental Bicycle Tourist podcast. Joining me today is the podcast's biggest supporter, who also happens to be my wife, Sandra.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here one more time.
Yeah, we made it. One more time. We've also got some holiday cheer in the form of delicious Zimtsterne cookies baked by our son Emilio and our neighbors in our kitchen. Zimtstern is German for cinnamon star. I'm looking at the cookies now, and most of them are in fact recognizable as star-shaped.
Yeah, that's right. They have some nice egg white sugar icing on top. And they're quite calorie heavy, but delicious.
Yeah, that's how it is at Christmas time. Our biggest news in 2025, of course, was the arrival of our daughter, Olivia, in July.
That was exciting. She was actually pretty much on time. And it was a fast exit.
We're also proud to announce that thanks to you, the listeners, there will be a season 3 of the podcast next year.
Yeah, great work, Gabriel. I mean, it's really you who does a lot to get those episodes out in time. And I do the heavy lifting in the regard of having the kids during your interview and editing times for the most part.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's get the intro rolling.
Here we go.
You're listening to The Accidental Bicycle Tourist. In this podcast, you'll meet people from all walks of life and learn about their most memorable bike touring experiences. This is your host, Gabriel Aldaz.
Those of you who listened to last year's holiday special know that this is not a typical interview episode. Instead, we will be looking back at some of the highlights from the past year. First, we will talk briefly about a couple of interesting metrics for the podcast. Then we'll count down the top 3 episodes of the season as determined by listener voting. In each case, I will be checking in with our worthy recipients to find out what they have been up to since their episode aired. Next, we'll give a couple of updates from other previous guests. Lastly, we'll briefly touch upon what to expect in season 3.
It sounds great.
Yeah, and it really has been a great year for the podcast. There are thousands of you listening, which is amazing. There are hundreds of you following or subscribed to the show, which is terrific. However, as of the time of this recording, there are only 35 of you who have left a rating on Spotify and 25 on Apple Podcasts. This is surprising because Apple Podcast listeners outnumber Spotify listeners by 1.7 to 1. And yet there's more Spotify ratings.
Yeah.
So if you would like to give back to the show, please subscribe, leave a rating, and or write a review. All of these things only cost a few seconds of your time, but they really do help the show to get discovered and to increase the audience. So if you like what you're hearing, I'd appreciate it if you did one of these things or even told a friend about the show.
Yeah, make it about some personal advertisement. That would be great. Gabriel is putting in a lot of time and effort into this show. I can testify.
As a funny footnote, Jan Turman, the guest on Zigzagging Across the Americas, convinced me to upload the episodes to YouTube Music. And it turns out somehow Google also gave me a YouTube channel. So currently my YouTube channel has 8 subscribers. If you're one of them, thank you very much. Let's push my YouTube subscribers number into double digits. Let's get 2 more.
That is a very modest goal. I think we can do that.
I hope so. Now, since we're still on the stats, I have a couple of questions for you. This is going to be interesting. The top 3 countries last year were United States, United Kingdom, and Germany. For the grand total now, Canada has pushed Germany out of the top 3.
Oh, wow.
I think we had multiple episodes this year with Canadian guests, and that's noticeable. That was interesting. But here's a quick question for you. I can also see the top cities. And it turns out that the top cities by listeners in the world are both in the same country. What would you guess were the top 2 cities for listeners?
Well, if you ask it like this, it seems like they're not located in any of the top 3 countries.
Right.
Oh, that is really tough then. Help me out to approach it a little bit. Is it a European country?
No.
It's not a European country. Who? Well, then is it a Southern American country?
No.
Not Northern.
No.
Because that's out. And Central American?
No.
All right, Asian.
No.
Oh, is it really like the Australia, Oceania?
Australia.
Is it Australia?
Yes.
So is it something like Melbourne?
Yes.
And Sydney?
Yes.
Whoa. That is unexpected. Cool.
Very unexpected. I haven't had a single full episode on Australia yet. That will change in season 3. We're going to do an episode focused only on Australia because it's about time.
Okay, so is this a call for cool people having cycled through Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a great story to tell about touring in Australia, then
get in touch.
Yeah. And then my second trivia question is, in how many different countries do you think that somebody has listened to an episode? We can't always say locally because I do think some of the people listening are travelers who happen to be in that country. But there has been at least one episode played in how many countries?
I would guess approximately 100.
That is exactly right. That's unbelievable. It is exactly...
exactly 100.
Exactly 100.
Oh, that's incredible.
100 countries. I was really shocked by this.
Well, I thought since your folks are heavy-duty travelers...
Yeah.
That is the first number that came to mind. That's funny.
Nothing more to say except that's overwhelming to me. It's very cool just to think all these people around the globe. And of course, I've even gotten to interview people around the globe.
Your interview format has its challenges because not only do you have to deal with the time shifts between Germany, where we're based, and the many places people are traveling, but it's also the internet connection, and then sometimes people are super remote, like, sorry, I can't make it for the next 4 days, let's see how it goes, and if I find a place with proper internet, and it is quite challenging. It really gets us in touch with what's happening on the road, at least with some of the guests, and that's really cool.
Definitely. As many of you know, we had our voting for the favorite episodes of roughly season 2. By using a Google form this year, we were able to get an exact vote count. So not only could we find the favorite episodes, we could also rank them. I have to say the competition was really, really tough this year. Yeah. It was great to see that the votes were spread out among many of the episodes. So a little something for everyone. That's good to see. But ultimately, we do want to celebrate the cream of the crop. We're going to start off with the third most popular episode, which was Diving into the Silk Road Mountain Race with Alden Roth. What do you remember about this episode, Sandra?
That was a really interesting episode because I had no idea that there was this Silk Road mountain race. And I will not forget how many Snickers Eldon ate every day to keep going. It's crazy that the food supply on this race is so poor that you really have to rely on Snicker bars and potato chips in order to keep going. The supplies that you're able to get your hands on in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan, it's very limited. Hardly any fruit or vegetable available, particularly during that time of year. I think it's quite tough, not only from the physical point of view, but also in terms of nutrition, which is so important when you're doing these endurance races. I mean, Eldon as a person is incredible. The diving head first, that is really his motto. He thought, okay, I've heard about this race. It sounds crazy. You have to write an application in order to be accepted at all. And he just does it. And not only does he do it, he also encounters all these challenges from food poisoning and being sick. Then the run-in with a local, and of course the worst thing was the accident he had on the second to last day. And then he just goes like, okay, I'll have my bike fixed. I go to Bishkek, get my bike fixed, get back to the oasis, and then do the last stretch. That is just crazy. And not enough of that, he signed up for this year's race again, right?
Yeah. I had an opportunity to catch up with Alden, so that's the perfect intro to the chat that Alden and I have.
All right, let's hear.
Exciting news! Your episode was voted one of the best for the season. I'm sure that was heartwarming.
Yeah, quite an honor. I'm glad that people enjoyed it.
Yeah, the big question is, in that episode, you were planning on returning to the Silk Road mountain race, and you did return. What happened? Did you have as many adventures as before? Yeah, fill us in.
Sure. Yeah, I went back. I felt a little bit more prepared this year. I had upgraded some stuff on my bike, so it was lighter. I was able to move faster. I feel like I was in better shape. I had a perfect race, at least as perfect as I could get.
Wow.
Yeah, I still had a crash, so...
No.
And no, I mean, it was like almost the same crash that I had last year. Luckily, nothing broke on my bike, at least nothing substantial. I did skin up my knee and my shin a little bit, but I was able to keep going.
We've covered several crashes on the podcast, but yours was one of the more violent ones. You went over the handlebars last year. You went over the handlebars again?
I did, yeah.
God.
But this one was at a much lower speed.
Okay.
When it happened last year, I was probably going like 20, 25 miles an hour.
Pretty fast?
Yeah. This year it was like 10 miles an hour, much slower.
Okay.
It was very funny. I was riding down this hill and I saw a little kid off to the side and I waved to them as I was turning a corner. And in that corner, I fell into a rut and fell over the handlebars. And the kid just looked at me, did not do anything, did not rush over to see if I was okay, just stared at me.
He probably thought, that's another one of those crazies. He's seen so many go by his village. He's like, oh, it's another one.
Absolutely. I think the race was a lot harder this year. They changed the course a little bit every year. And this year there was a 30-kilometer section where you sort of had to hike your bike. You were on a single track hiking path. And it was very steep cliffs. And everybody said that was the hardest section of the race and one of the hardest things that I've ever done. It was a lot of fun, though. I really enjoyed that portion of it. Even though it was really hard, it had 7 major river crossings. And then the last half mile, you were just walking your bike up a creek bed. I had 1 pinch flat. Other than that, I had no mechanicals. I was really lucky in that. I just felt really good the whole time.
So yeah, you finished. And I remember last time, because of the mechanicals, you didn't get to participate in the whole end of ride ceremony. But since you called it the perfect ride, then I guess you did this year.
I did, yeah. At the end of the race, they have a finisher's party.
Mm-hmm.
I got in almost a day and a half before the finisher's party, I think. My math might be wrong on that, but I got in with a good amount of time. And it was actually really special. The race director, Nelson, he was giving away a few awards for people that had, shown tremendous effort or done crazy things. And one of the last ones he gave out was to myself and 2 other people last year who were not able to finish in classification last year, but then came back this year and all 3 of us finished within the time cutoff. And so he sort of, recognized us for our persistence and improvement, which is really nice.
Wow, it sounds like he really keeps track of every participant and knows what they're up to. That's pretty cool. Very good. Anything else from that event that stood out?
One of the reasons I wanted to go back was because they change the route every year. There was a new section this year that was 400 kilometers without any resupply. So no towns or stores or anything where you could buy food along the way. The last major town was Narin. And when you left Narin, it was expected that you wouldn't be able to buy anything for another 400 kilometers. And I sort of estimated, I was like, that'll probably take me 3 days. And I was right on the money. It took me just exactly 3 days, but I got really lucky. On the second morning, I was riding along and I saw this group of campers sort of perched atop a cliff right before the road went down the cliff, and they were taking pictures. So I stopped. I was like, oh, that is a good picture. I'll take a picture too. They said, hey, biker, come here. I rode over and they were like, what are you doing? And I explained the race and everything to them. And they were like, oh, well, would you like some coffee? And I was like, would love some coffee. I haven't had hot coffee in like a week. And they're like, okay, we're also making breakfast. Do you want to stay for breakfast? I said, yeah, of course. I'll stay for breakfast. It's amazing. That was a really special interaction.
I remember you said you had thought about improving your Russian. Did that happen?
I continued to practice. I can say enough to get my main points across, but the thing that I think I wasn't expecting was that we went to some more remote places this year, and in the more remote villages, they speak the traditional Kyrgyz language. They don't speak Russian.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say like a perfectly good sentence in Russian, and they would just say, I don't know, no Russian. Oh, well, we're going to have to use some interpretive sign language to figure out this conversation.
Yeah, you're back to that. Sounds like you're hooked. You're signed up for next year?
I'm not sure. With this specific race, I think the itch has scratched. I still like racing, and so I think this coming year, I'm going to focus more on races sort of in my own backyard and, not do the thing that requires 24 plus hours travel each way, and just see some of the local races, explore some of the trails around here, and see what fun I can get into.
Speaking of that, I have just two more questions. One, did I see correctly that you're now an elected official in West Virginia?
Yeah.
Or not elected, or I don't know what, I don't know.
Hold an office in the local city government.
That's great.
The vacancy came up outside of the normal election cycle, and they couldn't hold it open for another 2 years. So I was appointed by the council. And I guess I was elected by the council body itself, but not by the citizens.
And that would be because you have so much free time. You have nothing going on, so you thought, why not join politics?
Yeah. I wish I had free time.
Yeah.
This is the place I grew up. I moved away for a little while, but now I'm back here. It's a place I love dearly, and there have been some unchecked growth and bad business policies while I was gone. And so I thought, now that I'm back, I don't like these things, so why don't I get involved and see if we can stop them or prevent them from happening again?
Okay. Another one of your projects, my last question, was the Filmed by Bike Festival. It happened in Portland on the other side of the country in May. How was that?
It was wonderful. It took a lot of work, but we made it happen. It was sort of a 4-day festival, so we had 3 days of movie screenings. We showed, I believe it was 31 short films, and then we showed a feature film, Lael Wilcox's Ride Around the World. We had several group rides and a couple clinics and other conversation events. It went really well, and everybody's really excited to see it back this year.
Wow, what a story. He crashed again? Oh my goodness. Too bad. But other than that, it seems like he's had a great race. And I'm really excited about that. And I hope that this time he got to enjoy all the water holes that he regretted having missed out last year.
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask him about the water holes.
Yeah, but at least the bicycle seems to have been a lot lighter, which is great. I remember that last year he had this huge bulky sleeping bag that was warm but very big and heavy. So yeah, probably that one also got an upgrade.
I'm sure.
It's cool that Alden actually bothered to learn some more Russian for his trip, but it is so sad that after learning it, then he encounters people who speak Kyrgyz and he can still not communicate with them. So that made me think of your episode number 45 with Alan Stillman, who invented QuickPoint as a little booklet that you can show to people where you can indicate what you're looking for and you can communicate through symbols and pictures. So maybe that is the addition for any future bike tours through terrain where you don't speak the language of the locals.
Cool.
It's incredible that after such an iconic ride as the Silk Road Mountain Race, Alden says that one of the most important things he remembers is the kindness that those strangers showed to him by giving him some fresh coffee and breakfast. So yeah, it's sometimes really the small things that stand out and make a lasting memory. And it makes me think, particularly now at Christmas time, that it's so important to show some small act of kindness, even to total strangers, in order to make lasting and beautiful memories for them.
Well, it seemed like a very busy year.
Talking about diving in head first, he now is an elected politician. This is incredible.
Indeed. Now it's time to hear about the second most popular episode last season, which was 3 Wheels, 2 Seats, 1 Goal with Dominic Gill.
That was one that I very well remember. He's also a badass guy.
Okay. Badass Dominic. What are some things that stand out from that one?
I loved his humor, first of all. I don't know if I can call it British humor, but he was very self-ironic when he talked about his aspirations of becoming world famous. And it's cool that he dreamed big. And somehow I think he also made it big because he did become this filmmaker and is quite busy with making films.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved his aspirations and that he went to talk to a place like, hey, I want to sell you my movies. I will film my trip on the bicycle. And they said, well, we're missing this like extra twist. Why don't you do it on a tandem? And he said, that sounds like a really stupid idea. And then, I mean, I love how he then goes back and says, you know what? I was really desperate. And so I said I would do it. And it seems like this tandem ride has become the most transformative experience of his life.
For those of you who didn't get a chance to listen to that episode, it's called 3 Wheels, 2 Seats, and 1 Goal because Dominic had his tandem and a bob trailer and the second seat was empty, except when he picked up people along the way, either completely randomly or at times in a prearranged fashion.
I was really touched also by the vulnerability that he showed about how things were not going well. You know, it's not all blue skies, but there's really these tough patches that you have to get over and the loneliness you have to deal with. You're on your own. I mean, yes, you get a bunch of people to ride with you maybe, but some might also be really uncomfortable. And I don't know if I would have dared doing it. Both from the who am I going to end up cycling with perspective, but also what if I have to go on my own? I also have to say, we got to see the movie that he made out of it. That is so cool. It's really touching, and I very much enjoyed it.
The movie is called Take a Seat, and it's not available, but we were able to get Dominic's promise that if you were to email him, he would send the password. And in fact, this is now the perfect time to transition to my catch-up with Dominic because I asked him about that as well.
All right, let's hear.
Dominic, congratulations. Your episode was voted number 2 episode of the season by the listeners.
That's fantastic. What beat me?
Oh, you have to listen to find out. But listen to this, though. A review on Apple Podcasts, okay? This person said about your episode, this was the best bicycle touring podcast I've ever heard, and I've listened to a lot. What a beautiful concept. In 2009, at age 63, I bicycled across the U.S. thinking I was there for the scenery, but the most memorable part of the trip was the interesting people we met along the way. The subject of this podcast found the perfect way to collect interesting people as he traveled. I wish I could have been there. Fantastic. Well done.
Oh, that's very sweet. I'm glad that it resonated.
Yeah, I thought that was a great review. And now something lighter. Speaking of being there, so when I do the Instagram posts about the episode, it's usually pretty subdued, but your episode got a lot of, for me, comments. And so I think you have a devoted Instagram following. And I just have to call out the comment from Senor Brady, where he said, I was behind him for miles on that second seat. And I actually thought, maybe it's true. But it wasn't.
Absolutely
so
not.
You know who this person is. You call Senor Brady a friend?
Senor Brady is a good friend of mine that lives about 15 miles down the valley here. And he is himself a pretty well-known sailor. He had a big sailing social media presence and YouTube channel for many years, sailing around the world and having similar but boat-based adventures. And we became good friends when I moved here. So he didn't even know me when I was on a tandem bicycle. But he does have a tendency, just like me, to tell tall stories, as we say.
Well, I guess it showed how gullible I was. I was like, this is cool. What segment did you write? It was like, but you stepped in and said, actually, not so much. And so then another question is, did any listeners contact you to get the password to watch your movie, Take a Seat?
I think I got a couple of emails around that time, and I don't remember if it was off the back of the podcast, but I imagine that's probably what it was.
Okay, so a few people have taken up the offer to actually watch the full movie. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it is potentially great. Depends,
No, come on. I can honestly say I enjoyed watching it.
Good. For me, it's a huge trip down memory lane now when I watch it. I'm like, wow, I have changed. The world has changed. Entertainment has changed. So much has changed.
Yeah, but the themes still resonate, so that's good. Speaking of that, wanted to mention you had sent me a link to this movie, Planetwalker. It's amazing. So can you tell a little bit about Planetwalker?
Yeah, the story of John Francis, or Dr. John Francis these days, whose moniker is Planetwalker, is much more inspiring and profound than any story that I've collected on adventures. He is a man who in 1971 witnessed an oil spill off the coast of San Francisco. And it was, at the time, I think, the largest oil spill to have happened within US waters. Anyway, he saw this oil spill and was so saddened by it that he wanted to do something. And he decided that the first thing to do would be to remove himself from the economy of oil. So he stopped riding in vehicles, in internal combustion engine driven vehicles. So he would walk everywhere. In the process of walking everywhere, his friends would see him on the road and offer to give him a ride, and he would say no. And he started getting people a little irritated. Very shortly after that, he got kind of tired of arguing his point and decided it would be a favor to everyone, including himself, if he stopped talking. So he took a vow of silence, in part to stop this kind of argumentative behavior that he was getting into, but in part also just to see if he could listen and learn more from the people and the environment around him by listening. Long story short, after that 1971 oil spill, for a couple of years, he walked and functioned in his local community in silence. And shortly after that, set off on a journey first north and then east across the United States in silence on foot. For the next nearly 20 years, he traveled, zigzagged his way across the states on foot, learning and gaining 3 environmental science degrees on the way in silence. And now he continues to preach the message that he learned over those 20 years. And he learned this in the same way as me, rubbing shoulders with a million different people on the way across the states and experiencing vast amounts of kindness. He learned that without kindness being the essential underpinning of everything else, we will get nowhere in the world of environmental improvement and stewardship. We spend a lot of time now, and we see it in politics every day, shouting at each other, and we're more interested in being right than being kind. And being right does not often result in progress. It results in other people feeling wrong, therefore defensive, and therefore less likely to cooperate with whatever you're encouraging them to do. The documentary and indeed John's story is one of kindness and the essential nature of that in a society that's perhaps forgetting that.
Inspiring. Is that your latest work?
It's the latest big film. I've made a few others. I've just launched a film about a gravel rider called Pete Stettner in the US. By the time this comes out, that film will be out. It's a 13-minute film about the difficulty athletes have with retiring, right? The identity crisis of retiring, which is honestly relatable for all of us going through anywhere near midlife. You begin to have your physical abilities challenged, and you have to make peace with the fact that you're more than that, and your identity cannot be exclusively wrapped up in strength or speed. And that actually comes back to other stories like John Francis's story. What is going to be your identity? Do you want to identify as a kind person? It's hard to take that away from you. Or a loving person, or a calm person, as opposed to the fastest. I think often you find out from people, like in my experience, John Francis was an important teacher for me in this case. However stubborn we are as younger people, and however much we don't really believe it at the time, I think a lot of elder people say, I didn't really understand what this life was about until I was 40, 50, 60. Wisdom is hard earned. It doesn't come overnight.
The film that Dominic is referring to is called Feeding the Rat, and I will put a link to the film, which is on YouTube.
Why? Do you know what is behind that title?
Yeah, feeding the rat is this expression that is used to mean that people have that desire to really compete and get the thrill of victory. Dominic can explain in his own words.
In the climbing world, there's this word for this, and it's feeding the rat. You can't help but feed the rat, right? You think you are grown up enough or mature enough to stop, but something is calling out for food inside of you and you need to keep feeding it. And it's often destructive.
Is that a sad expression that I've never heard?
I think so, but I think it's
not
limited in use.
Okay.
If most people say they're feeding the rat, they have a pet.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. The topic sounds very interesting because it's something that most other people have never thought about. It's really interesting topics that Dominic is taking on with his filmmaking.
And specifically, Peter Stettner in the film is trying to break the Mount Washington hill climb record. Mount Washington is in the eastern United States, in New Hampshire, and it is one of the steepest, craziest roads. And Mount Washington actually has some of the most extreme weather conditions. And here's the little thing you didn't know, Sandra. My father was a meteorologist.
I knew that much.
He was stationed all over the world, and he was actually at the Mount Washington Observatory, and there they record the windiest conditions on the planet at times.
Oh, wow.
So it is a rather extreme place, even for a weatherman.
Wow, okay, no, I didn't know that. I already complain when I have to cycle against the wind, not going up a mountain, so that's not for me.
Speaking of our bicycling, we are still working on our years-long, decades-long, decades-long quest to one day have bicycled the entire perimeter of Germany. The problem is we keep on taking more weight in the form of children.
Yeah, that is true. And then in the form of extra gear that you carry around when you have kids. So, whoa.
Right. Touring with diapers.
Yeah. Yeah. And 2 tens.
Yeah. So in 2025, we only managed to cycle 100 kilometers from Trier to Saarbrücken before Olivia was born.
I was about to say, I was also highly pregnant at the time. So it's largely due to that fact.
Yeah, slowly and surely we are doing different segments, and we hope to do another segment in 2026.
Yeah, something closer to home, just in case. But longer, and we'll see how it goes with 2 little kids going on a bicycle and camping trip.
And now, without further ado...
Drum roll.
Yes, without further ado, the most popular episode of the season was A Bear of a Ride from the Canadian wilderness to the Tour and back with Swain Tuft.
Oh, wow, that is cool. I love the title from the beginning.
What do you remember about this episode?
What stood out for me there is that Swain is also this totally accidental cyclist, right? I mean, I remember that he actually wanted to go rock climbing and then needed some inexpensive means of transportation that wouldn't break down so easily. And that's how he got into cycling, right?
Yeah.
I remember that he lived for some time in a bike shop because he actually was so... How do you say it?
Destitute?
All right. Yeah, you can put it that way.
I mean, if you live in the bike shop.
You mean it's even worse than your friend's couch?
Yeah.
Okay. I would have expected you to say it sounds like paradise, all the bike parts.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure his bike was working, but...
He also welded the trailer and he had this cool dog bear, and that he went with the dog onto the rides in a trailer that he welded himself. That is what really stuck with me, and that's also the photograph of the episode. The dog, he just looks so fluffy and like a really well-natured dog. This team of man and dog, that really stuck with me. Isn't it that Swain then also somehow accidentally got into professional cycling?
That's right. If the podcast were called The Accidental Professional Cyclist, he would be the only episode. Because basically, as many of you know, to be a professional cyclist, most people are on that track from a very early age. They have the single-minded determination to become professional cyclists. Yes, you're remembering correctly. In fact, Swain was something like 27 years old when he became a professional.
It's crazy, yeah. But I remember that he said that if you love something, then you can be really good at it. He could do those crazy days in the saddle because he really enjoyed it and he wanted to do it, and he didn't do it in order to become something.
That thought, and then also keeping in mind Dominic's new film about Pete Stetina and what could he do after retirement, both of those things play into the conversation with Swain.
All right, let's hear.
Swain, congratulations on being the #1 voted episode of the podcast this season. I'm sure that ranks way up there in your list of achievements.
Hey, it's always cool to get ranked #1, no matter what it is. I'll take it,
Yeah, the competition was tough and you came out ahead. So I have just a couple of follow-up questions from things that some listeners have commented on. So first of all, a listener made me aware that in your current life, post-retirement, you run tuft camps and guide trips. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I found with retirement, and I think I touched on it a bit in the podcast there, but it's really difficult to shift from something you've been just single-mindedly doing for, 15, 20 years, always a clear objective. And there's just, for me, something about being outside all day, being on my bike and still exploring. So when I stopped, I was just like, how do I keep part of that, in my life? Yeah, so we were fortunate enough where we ended up here in BC. We have like a property and we have a cabin on the property as well, like aside from our house where we live. And so I kind of renovated that and really modernized it and made it quite nice. Where we live is, in my mind, very much a gravel riding mecca here in the Kootenays, British Columbia. And yes, we have groups come and stay. It's really open. Like some people always think, oh, there's like a rhythm or like you have to go and do these rides or whatever, but it's like whatever you want. So, if you have a group and, your limit is 50K a day, I build routes to 50K a day. Or if you want to go epic and do big, massive 150K loops, then plenty of that too. I try and build stuff that suits everyone and kind of gives everyone the best experience based on their group. And saying that, I also do like individual training camps. People come and do like road riding or gravel riding. So really, it's just about contacting me and trying to build something that works for you. That's been a nice project and definitely something, I really enjoy. Because everyone who comes out is very keen on riding. And it's just fun to go and kind of show them this zone and kind of the stuff that I love. Yeah, you see their eyes light up.
Cool. So listeners can sign up to take part in this.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing you mentioned that you do is you coach younger riders. And I was wondering, do you think there's a lost art to building resilience through adventure that the younger generation is missing out on?
Great question. That's one thing I see, right, is a lot of the younger riders I work with or mentor, they are so caught up in what the World Tour riders are doing, right? So they just see that as the only way. And I'm always trying to, I'm over there in the corner kind of like, there's different ways to go about this. And my number one thing I try and preach, and it's always hard to like a younger person as an older guy, even if you have a bit of experience in that world. But the number one thing I preach is that you have to love this more than anything. My point is always that it gets very hard. It's a very difficult world to navigate. And not only is the training and like the day-to-day, like consistent workouts and all that stuff difficult, but it's all of the other things, trying to figure out contracts and stress and living on another continent and a million other things that go with it. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, that's so hard, but you've got to love this so much that none of that really bothers you. For myself, when I look back, I'm like, well, what was that for me? And it was just that I loved being on my bike every day. So becoming a bike racer was just kind of a side effect of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to race bikes, and anyone who races a bike and wins a bike race wants to keep doing it. I mean, it becomes very addictive. But at the base and the core of it all was that I just loved riding my bike. So for me, it was very simple. I never saw that life as a stressor, or I never saw it as like, oh, this is so hard and I'm sacrificing so much. And I hear professional riders say that now, and I get it. Like, it's hard, anything at that level is hard. But when at the core and foundation of it is that you just love it so much, it's not that hard, right? There will be hard days, of course, but most of the time it's pretty awesome. I see in the younger people that they want it now, they want to be pro, and they don't know actually what that is. I'm just like, take your time. There's no rush. Everyone's under this idea that they have to be professional at the age of 18, signing these multi-year contracts. And if they're not, they're just a piece of garbage, And I think that's a horrible thing that's been bred into cycling at this stage, right? A lot is getting lost in this drive for just the ultimate top performance. And this generation will pay for that a bit. I see it already. Younger riders just quitting, like very good, very talented riders, just like they have a World Tour contract and they're just like, no, this is not for me. Like, they're burning out. If you've been doing the 1%er since the age of 12, I'm sorry, but you're probably already cooked by the time you're 20.
And that happens in all sorts of things, not just cycling. It could be chess, or it could be football, or whatever. Now the pressure is so high to start early and train.
Yeah, in my country, it's hockey, right?
Hockey, yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, if you aren't a phenom at the age of 10, it's just like, well, forget about it.
Yeah, washed up. That's great advice. Here's a fun one. So as we discussed on the episode, you have recently co-written a book with Richard Abraham called We Will Never Be Here Again. a listener pointed out that Richard Abraham is a very well-established sports writer in the United Kingdom, which I wasn't aware of. And one of the most unusual articles he ever wrote, which appeared in Rouleur magazine, was titled Les Effaceurs, about the workers who erase graffiti on the roads of the Tour de France.
Yeah.
So they turned penises into butterflies or bears and syringes into ladders. Do you know about this article?
Yeah, it rings a bell. It's probably been a while since I read it, but yeah, I do know. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, as someone who was going on those roads and you had all of this graffiti, what was your take on all of this craziness?
The stuff that kind of degrades or takes racing down, it's like anything negative in life. It is what it is, but it's not needed, or appreciated. I always could appreciate like the funny stuff. Sometimes you just be rolling in the gruppetto, like just trying to make it to the finish, and you'd see some crazy drawing and you're just like, man, someone put a lot of work into this. Well done. You're like, oh, hats off. Good job. That's beautiful. The Tour de France, it's so special in that way. I remember once when I was out of the bubble, I went touring through the Pyrenees. It would have been like 5 days before the tour was coming through the Pyrenees. And yet there was people camped out on some beautiful col, just waiting in their camper out in the middle of nowhere, just waiting for the tour. And it's just like, what other sporting event has that kind of passion or that kind of like following?
And my last question is, last time we had talked about how you have kind of tried to tone things down, and sometimes you just have to do another big race. Anything coming up for you? I know you said you don't have a calendar, but how is that looking?
It took a while to normalize over this summer, and I got back to a bunch of really great objectives. I started this thing called FKT Challenges. It's right now like a Strava club, like I have an Instagram thing, and it's basically trying to get people into doing stuff locally, right? So like picking the best route of your region and kind of going out on a mission, doing your best time, right? And then writing a report, giving some details and some intel on the route, maybe some pictures, whatever, and create a community there where it's less about traveling to some bike packing event, like going to Morocco or whatever. Not everyone can do that. If you're raising kids and you're working, whatever, it's like, that's a big undertaking, right? Those days are kind of gone for me, right? Like this chasing after whatever that is. I get it. I'm all for it. Like challenge yourself 100%, but you can do a lot of cool stuff in just your own region when it works out for you. I know next summer I'll be doing something. It's definitely on the radar. My plan always is just stay in shape, be ready. If I needed to, I could train in a month and a half or 2 months and be ready for a really big objective, and I'd feel proud of that. That's all I could ask for at this part of my life. And I advise anyone else, consistency is everything. Like when I think of most of the people I coach and work with, you have to be consistent. I know of just over a lifetime of doing this, that's the thing that works. So keep it simple,
Cool that Swain actually started to have his own camps, tuft camps. I mean, how cool is that?
That's very cool.
Swain has found a great way to feed his rat, doing tuft camps as a way to stay meaningful after his professional career has ended. So that's a great tie-in to the film that Dominic is making, actually.
So it's interesting to see that he's really focusing on local. He lives obviously in a very special part of the world in the mountains of British Columbia, both with the tuft camps and then now with this FKT challenges. I think it's an interesting point because as someone with small children, whenever I try to get away for a bike ride or a week-long bike tour, it's a big question mark for the family.
Yeah, while the kids are so small, it's always tough being alone with them. One other thing that I found interesting that you both mentioned are those graffitis that have to be turned into something nicer from their original meaning. So I never knew that there was a job like that. And this is probably what you call street artist then, huh?
I didn't know that was a job either. I'm not sure what the qualifications are.
Be creative, probably.
Yeah, be creative. And then there's also the banners and the towns themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll do crazy things like arrange 10,000 bales of hay to look like a giant bicycle that then when the helicopter is hovering over
Oh, wow.
that field, it looks like there's a bike and it's made out of hay.
Really cool. I have to say, I had thought about maybe taking you to watch the Tour de France one day. We'll see how we can make that happen, but I want to do that one day.
I'll camp out 5 nights before.
Before Pogacar comes along.
I'll start the climb 5 days before Pogacar. We'll get there at the same time.
That wraps up the 3 most voted episodes of this season. Now thinking about who was elected, I have to say I also voted, and not all of my votees got into the top 3, which is sad. So I have to say it's cool that there's this community and it's really a fair process in that regard. And just making sure this is how it is.
I think Dominic is claiming that the vote was stolen. I think Dominic believes he was number 1.
Well, he has a really good episode, but the other 2 and many others were really, really good too. I thought about what makes those 3 episodes stand out to me. And I think it is really strong personalities. All 3 guests have super strong personalities and tackle challenges head first. They just dive into it. They are like, okay, this is going to be tough, but I can somehow deal with it. It's also less common experiences that all 3 narrate on. And I have to say that in spite of the incredible achievements and the hardships they all had to endure, they come across as so sweet and humble. All of them. Yeah, also from my part, thank you to the guests, to all of the guests for being available and putting in this effort and relating your incredible stories, because it is so interesting and I'm always looking forward to the next episode. It is really inspiring to hear what unique people are out there, and it's really insightful to listen to your stories.
Speaking of stories, I have a few updates from a few of the other guests who are doing amazing adventures around the world, and I'd like to share those with you. First, though, very interestingly, in the episode The Accidental Origins of Bicycle Touring, guest David Houghton and I asked you, the listeners, if you knew of any modern-day explorers on high-wheeler bicycles. That's the bicycle with the huge front wheel and the tiny back wheel, also known as a penny farthing bicycle. Surprisingly, or maybe not, I got one name. Geoff Summerfield. Geoff went around the world on a modern penny farthing that he built himself.
Oh, man.
Traveling through 23 countries on 4 continents. Geoff started his journey, get this, in North Finchley, north of London, at the grave of Thomas Stevens, who, we learned in the episode, was the first person to cycle around the world, doing so on a high-wheeler. Geoff took a stone with him and returned it to the grave after his journey.
Wow, that is like very deep meaning.
Definitely. I contacted Geoff, and while he is not available for interviews at the moment, I'm really hoping to speak with him during season 3 because I think he's got a lot of stories to tell.
Oh man, I am sure. I'm just thinking I wouldn't even know how to fasten all my gear on a penny farthing, much less than mount that huge thing when it is loaded. I already think it is quite a challenge getting up top onto that high saddle when you don't have all the gear loaded because of the weight distribution. Yeah. I am very curious to hear how that has been going. And I hope you can get him to have an interview next year. Now, let's hear the updates from some of the other season's guests that are currently touring.
Here is an update from Julia Essa from the episode Bitten and Back, Overcoming Fear After a Dog Attack. She's been traveling around South America.
Looking back at this year, it challenged me definitely in ways I never expected. but it turned into one of the most amazing times of my life. So after the dog attack in Colombia, I got back on my bike in Ecuador full of excitement. I was definitely hoping for adventure as I headed south, but honestly for fewer stones in my way. So once I finally shared my first kilometers in southern Ecuador with Laura, we planned to meet up again in Peru and explore one of the biggest waterfalls in the world. But things turned out very differently. I got hit hard by dengue fever, and I was incredibly grateful that I wasn't alone in that moment. Laura and I had imagined those days very differently, and I'm thankful that she once again helped me through the first really tough days. I struggled with the after effects of dengue for quite some time, and I was really worried it would overshadow my time in Peru. In mid-July, my friend Anna came to visit from Germany, and we were together through the Peruvian Andes. Sharing the road with a close friend was truly a special part of the journey. Then after a few days of riding alone on the Peru Divide, I met Laura again in the middle of nowhere, and we spent the last days of this route together, camping with views and glaciers, surrounded by the incredible landscape of the Andes. And then when the Peru Divide ended, another setback followed. Because of a painful bursitis in my shoulder, I had to stop for more than 5 weeks. And I spent that time in Arequipa, and mentally it was really hard to deal with yet another pause. But after 2 weeks, I kind of accepted the situation and made the best out of it. And also, thanks to some wonderful people I met at the hostel at Arequipa, I still ended up having a really great time over there. After the last checkup on my shoulder in La Paz, I continued riding south. And from that point on, I shared many kilometers with other cyclists. One of the most special moments was crossing the Salada Uni with 5 other cyclists. And then also there was a night that I spent completely alone out there on the salt flat, which was an unforgettable experience. Especially because for a long time, I wasn't really sure if I would even make it this far. Since restarting in Arequipa, every single day on the bike has felt like a gift. And I'm super grateful for every day I could keep riding south. The landscapes in Bolivia, the desert-like scenery in Chile, and the incredible rock formations in northern Argentina are memories that I will definitely carry with me forever. I'm spending now Christmas at the edge of Patagonia with other cyclists, and I'm really excited for what's ahead. This year has been really intense, and so much turned out differently than I ever imagined. But I'm very proud of how far I've come, grateful for all the experience, and definitely for the people that I met along the way.
Wow, that's a crazy update. It shows again how important it is to have the right mindset and also strong supporters, ideally both remotely and, of course, locally. Julia has had so many setbacks, and I think anyone would have understood had she decided to quit at some point. I think it's really admirable what she's put herself through, and I hope she is enjoying Christmas in Patagonia now.
I'm amazed that Laura helped her out again.
Yeah.
This time when she had the dengue fever.
Crazy. It's so cool that they found each other. It's really a match made in heaven, if you can say it that way.
Well, speaking of Laura, here's an update from Laura Grace from the episode Finding a Place in the Wild.
Since I spoke on the Accidental Bicycle Tourist podcast, I continued my journey through Peru, riding on the Great Peru Divide. I rode with Julie for a week or so, who also featured on the podcast, soaking up the incredible scenery of the high Andes together before going our separate ways once again. I continued to Cusco and into Bolivia, riding past volcanoes and across the famous Salado Uni. I'm now in northern Patagonia, having a short break here over Christmas with some other bikepackers before starting on the Carretera Austral, making my way down to my destination of Ushuaia.
Wow, that's exciting. It looks like both Julia and Laura are in Patagonia and getting ready to complete the final leg of their long journeys to Ushuaia in the early months of 2026.
Oh, wow, that is cool.
And then also Jan Turman. I think his zigging and zagging got even more extreme. I think he's still heading... He's still heading to Ushuaia, I think, but traveling directly north.
Wow, okay, that is crazy.
Jan decided to send me a text rather than read his update, and this is what he said. We talked when I was in Cotopaxi, Ecuador. After that, I continued south and rode the classic Peru Great Divide. It was incredibly beautiful, but also very challenging, both for me and for the bicycle, which broke a few times along the way. At some point, I decided to do what we had talked about in our episode, zigzagging the Americas. I chose to cross all the way to the Atlantic Ocean through the Amazon. The Amazon is massive, truly overwhelming, so I ended up taking boats for parts of the journey. Eventually, I reached French Guiana, and then something completely unexpected happened. A guy posted on Facebook saying he was looking for volunteers to help him sail from French Guiana to the Caribbean, specifically to the French Caribbean islands. I got extremely excited. Boat hopping is something I've always heard of but never got to do myself. Well, there it is. I had to leave my bike behind in French Guiana. I have now been in Martinique for about 2 weeks, and I already got myself another bicycle. I'm trying to get a job, get some rest, and enjoy the island before continuing on my trip. This is very typical of how I travel. Before, I never saw my North to South America bicycle crossing as something limited to a year or so, followed by a return to a normal life. I have always seen it as an ongoing adventure, something open-ended that could take me to unexpected places. That is exactly what is happening now. Being on this Caribbean island, trying to settle in a bit, looking for work, brings a strange mix of freedom and difficulty. Not as easy to be homeless without a packed bike to explain your story to the world. Choosing to cross the Amazon to the Atlantic was not an easy decision. I could have simply continued south. I now see all the Instagram posts by Julia, Laura, and other cyclists who are already around Patagonia. Excited to get there myself in a year or more.
Oh man, Jan is really zigzagging like crazy. And I have to say, I'm jealous that he's now doing some boat hopping. That's right up my alley. And I'm sure that there's worse than Christmas on Martinique.
Yeah, it's funny because Jan's trip has now reminded us of the Life is Wild episodes from season 1 with Andre Plumeau, and he was on Martinique. Wasn't he working as a baker on Martinique?
Yeah, this concept that I had never heard of before, that you start cycling and then you suddenly switch your mode of transportation to a boat. And I don't know about Jan, but it seems like he also is not huge into boats or sailing and doesn't come with a ton of experience. So this is such a crazy idea to me, but so ingenious. I love it.
Here is an update from Giacomo Turco from the episode Into the Unknown, who was going to start a trip from Cape Town to Italy.
Oh yeah, I remember that Giacomo had some crazy experiences in South America, and I'm sure that he's also had some nice adventures in Africa.
Hi, Gabriel. How are you? Here, Giacomo. I'm in Nigeria on my way to Italy, and I thought I will spend the Christmas here in Lagos. And honestly, so far, my experience in Nigeria has been really so amazing because I was very scared to come. Everybody said, don't come to Nigeria. But the people are so amazing, so friendly, so... I don't know, I just love the energy of Nigerian people. And honestly, I don't want to leave this place. But the journey eventually has to continue. And now it's like 7 months that I'm on the road. The experience, I have to say, it's always very intense. Because, especially at the beginning, when you get into, let's say, the first not very touristic countries, you really start having a very intense experience because with malaria, with what you eat, what you drink, where you pitch the tent, you always really, this is not relaxing. But at the same time, if you really want a really crazy adventure, I think this part of Africa, West Africa,
It's really the wildest place you can find still to go backpacking. Where really, yeah, you can do adventures with the people because you can really get in touch with people that are so different from the background. Also, like when I was in the forest of Congo, I went really deep inside the forest because I wanted to meet the pygmies, spending a few days with them and going hunting with them some monkeys and see how they cook and they eat the monkeys. Has been so incredible. Now it's like almost 2 years, considering also the South America trip that I did. I left in January 2024, and since then I only spent 2 months in Italy. But I have to say that I really love this life. I really love every day of this life. It is so intense, so amazing. At the same time, I have to say I'm a bit scared how it's going to be coming back because I'm not sure I'm ready to come back to a normal life. I love too much this bikepacking life, honestly.
I'm glad that he feels so at home being on the road and so welcome by the people he is meeting. If you get to interview him on the Africa trip, please make sure to ask him how the monkeys tasted.
I can tell you, I have seen some of his Instagram posts, and hunting with the pygmies in Congo, that's only a small part of the craziness. I think there really is a full hour's worth of stories. So yeah, maybe a future episode, season 3.
All right, sounds good.
Here's an update from Javi and Rebecca from the episode Open Source, Open Roads, the Hacker Bikepacker Story. They're on a 1-year trip from Austria due east.
Hola, Gabriel, and hello, all listeners. We are recording from New Zealand.
We are sitting here on a campground having a delicious instant coffee after finishing one of the rail trails. Here on the North Island, there are a variety of beautiful trails. We have had some single trails, another rail trail, and we definitely enjoy nature here in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's an awesome country, but not the only one we have visited since we talked the last time. We have had also many more technical issues, like the last time we talked, for example, in the following countries.
We were in Kazakhstan,
In China,
Mongolia,
in China again.
in Tibet,
Then we took a train all the way to the East Coast and a ferry to South Korea,
another ferry to Japan.
where we spent 1 month, and then we flew all the way to New Zealand.
But New Zealand is definitely not the end.
We still have 2 months, and, well, let's see what happens then.
Oh wow, they have made it all the way to New Zealand. It is incredible how time is flying and how far Javi and Rebecca have gotten. It really makes me want to go out and see where the road leads me.
Well, there's our German perimeter trip. And lastly, this will be interesting. Mark Vashro, our guest all the way back to episode 4, Bike Against the Wind, has some exciting news to share. Mark is the co-creator of Blue Life, a character-driven sci-fi audio series set in a crumbling Los Angeles. In a fight for survival and control of a life-saving drug, humanity's struggle with class, power, and hope takes center stage. Listen to Blue Life wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh, that sounds interesting. And dark, dystopian.
It is a bit dystopian. I've been listening, and when you do a podcast that basically just has the interview format, it's already a challenge to get the audio edited and so forth. But imagine trying to create an audio play with so many sound effects and
Wow.
footsteps and really clever transitions. And yeah, I can really appreciate the amount of work that goes into that experience.
It sounds great.
Right. And so all that's left to say is we look forward to season 3, and we've got some exciting guests already lined up based on feedback from the listeners during the survey. Also going to expand a little bit more, do a few more creative things, because that's something that several listeners have asked for. Stay tuned for some exciting episodes and enjoy the holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays and a peaceful and calm start into the new year for everyone.
The transcript for this episode is available on the Accidental Bicycle Tourist website. I welcome feedback and suggestions for this and other episodes. You'll find a link to all contact information in the show notes. If you would like to rate or review the show, you can do that on your favorite podcast platform. You can also follow the podcast on Instagram. Thank you to Anna Lindenmeyer for the cover artwork and to Timothy Shurtell for the original music. This podcast would not be possible without continuous support from my wife, Sandra. And thank you so much for listening. I hope the episode will inspire you to get out and see where the road leads you.
You're, I don't want to say a one-man show, but you're doing a great job in putting it all together.
Well, thank you. Some of those compliments will be edited out.